coming to the part 2 of the AMA, let me, continue with the questions that we have for Professor Subhojoy Gupta. So you were telling us previously, what are the interesting, topics inside, your field of mathematics. Um, could you also speak about who are the mentors in your life, or what role did mentors play in your life? How important was that? Did you find that, very impactful, useful?
Certainly. I think so. Mathematics and many other sciences. I mean, the role of mentors is particularly important because it's there are various people who have inspired me. I had some excellent teachers in college in IIT Kanpur who so nurtured my interest in mathematics. And even before that, I mean, there was teachers in school who were encouraging. So certainly mentors are important. And I guess the most the most influential teacher I've had was my PhD advisor in the US when I went there for my PhD. And it's his example that I, sort of would continue to follow, not just in sort of in how to think about mathematics and mathematical research, but also in sort of engaging with students in a helpful way. And this I have to do now as part of my profession because I have to guide students, I have to interact with students, I have to help students. So this is I mean, mathematics is a community effort. I mean, we are all together in this, trying to discover these mathematical truths and sort of finding out what is correct and what the right picture is, and what the so it's just like in any other part of science. And so we engage as a community, which is a collective effort in doing this. And so the role of teachers and mentors is very important. And this is part of what we have to engage in.
Okay, that is very interesting to know. Um, so, what do you suggest for the young minds today who are interested in mathematics, or want to, maybe think of doing mathematics further in their career or life? Like on a broad level, what do you think? What advice do you have for them?
Yeah, I guess one thing they should keep in mind is that I mean, mathematics is not just pure mathematics or just theoretical mathematics, with the kind of stuff that I do, but mathematics is quite vast, and there are many parts of mathematics which are interdisciplinary, and you can hope to apply mathematics in other fields. And those are now slowly gaining more and more importance. I mean, you can use mathematics in biology, for example. I mean, even the kind of mathematics that I do, which is completely pure, but there have been people who have applied it to problems in biology. So, for example, I was talking about these moduli spaces of these surfaces, right? These spaces of shapes, and so one of the important problems in biology is protein folding. So the shape of these protein chains, how they are sort of folded up. And so one can use, and people have used techniques in mathematics in the theory of moduli spaces in the study of these proteins and these RNA and so on. So there is an interdisciplinary aspect of mathematics, which is kind of starting to emerge as a very important field. And it's also, for example, in machine learning and AI and so on, there is the need for mathematics to be used. There's also a need for mathematics in social sciences, for example, because now we have all this data, the big data that people talk about, and sort of these, the human behavior and so on. I mean, be it, global pandemic, or be it these climate change, or sort of or advertisers and so on. So there's a scope for actual real mathematics be used. And so I would encourage people to explore those options as well, and sort of to use mathematical talent and interest in these various ways, instead of just single-minded sort of narrower fields that are perhaps more common earlier on. So now I think there's a scope for this other thing. So I would advise students to also keep open to that possibility, and not just to have a sort of a closed mind to those.
That's interesting and great to hear. So I think here are the list of questions that we had. We've kind of come to an end, and we would open up the questions to.
Okay.
Final year student, mechanical engineering.
Hi.
So my question is, in today's current situation, global pandemic and all, how are mathematicians helping scientists to find solutions to it, or help in any way, like in the modeling, or uh, finding a cure for it? In how are they helping the scientists?
So I'm sure there are people who are helping. There are several ways that mathematicians, certain parts of mathematics are certainly directly useful. So, for example, things like statistical analysis of things too. So, statistics and probability is an important area of mathematics where which makes sense of large numbers, and so on. There's graph theory, which is interesting and sort of important in today's context, because it sort of understands networks and how large networks behave. So I'm sure that there are people who are working on this. I see, so there is a math, so new research in math is posted online in a site called Archive. So I see almost every day some new paper in mathematics related to that. There are people who study dynamical systems, which are sort of this is also an old topic in mathematics, which involves so things moving, right? So it's like particles, or it could be certain other things. And so people are using dynamical systems theory to understand the spread of the virus and so on. So I'm sure that people are doing it. So in my field, which is geometry and topology, the study of shapes, as I said, it's not perhaps immediately directly useful. So the kind of applications that one of the application I did mention was the fact that moduli spaces are used in understanding the shape of these shape of proteins and the space of shapes of these objects, and maybe those are used somehow in biology in this context, in the context of this virus also. I don't know about that. And it's also, so the kind of things that I do are used in medical imaging. For instance, so I study the shape of the space of shapes, as I said, right? So one of the things that abstractly I study is how to measure how different one shape is from another. Okay, so of course I study it in a very abstract setting, but people have applied it in medical imaging. So for example, if you want to compare a sort of healthy tumor with a healthy bone with some bone with a tumor, right? So you have to somehow understand the distance in this shape of and the space of shapes of bones, right? Something like that. So people have used the kind of things mathematics I do in that, and I'm sure maybe it's now being used in for the COVID-19. Maybe you compare pictures of lungs or these X-rays and so on to understand whether somebody has COVID-19 or not. So perhaps it's being used. So yeah, mathematics has a tendency. History has taught us that mathematics always, this theoretical pure mathematics, which is people do for pleasure and sort of just do because they are, interested in it, ultimately becomes useful. And just like, as I mentioned, Einstein's theory of general theory of relativity about gravity ultimately is, today we are using it in, GPS. So just like that, so sometimes it takes years, it takes centuries to find an application, but they do eventually have an application. And I should also point out, in the current context, this pandemic, yeah, it's another responsibility that academicians have. I mean, not just mathematicians, but so academicians have an important role in bringing science to everybody, and sort of saying why science is more important. Because in this current situation, in the pandemic and all, it's the scientists and the doctors who are ultimately, the heroes of the day, and the scientists who would, make the vaccine, etc. So in the broader scheme of things, so mathematics is part of that science, and me as a professor in an institute of science and so on, we have the role to play to bring science to people, right? So yeah, so I guess, in a way, we are helping sort of indirectly in that sense as well.
I am Anuradha.
Hi.
I really like your discussion, especially that interdisciplinary approach of mathematics. But I am a chemist. I'm not in touch in mathematics. I think last mathematics I have studied when I was in BSc.
I see.
So I'm completely in chemistry background, but I really like the approach you told, that how maths, it's kind of means application of the maths. So I really enjoy your discussion.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm glad it's helpful. Yeah, it's, in chemistry as well, mathematics, I'm sure, is being used, and all this, especially, the interface of chemistry and biology, is probably a field where mathematics is only starting to be fully used. I mean, the kind of theoretical mathematics that, I do and specialize in, who knows, maybe it'll be all these moduli spaces and all that. Maybe in the future, we understand so little after all, right? I mean, so it's, things about the brain, or what the chemistry of the human body is, things which are still being explored, and hopefully, mathematics will be useful in that.
Great. So I think that brings us to a close with the questions that we had for you. Any parting words for us that you have, that we can take home as people interested in mathematics but not knowing too much about it? Like, how should we any words that you have for us?
Yeah, so nowadays, all this, including this AMA, I suppose, there are many resources available on the internet, and there are several YouTube channels. For instance, there's this 3 Blue 1 Brown, and there's this Number File, etc. And so they make these popular math videos. There's also this Quanta magazine, which has its own podcast and various articles about what is happening in mathematics and other sciences, and they are very accessible. So I would recommend that people who are interested in learning more about what's going on to check these out. And we are living in an age when all this communication over the internet is possible, and so it's actually a great time for students to reach out and sort of pick the brains of other people, or to kind of learn about what's going on.
Great answer, and thank you for inspiring us with those words. So thanks again for doing this AMA with STEMnet, and whoever joined this call, and who will see this AMA later, I'm sure they'll get inspired by mathematics and try to look more into the resources available on the internet and try to learn more about mathematics, if not go deeper into it and try to become researchers in mathematics themselves. Thank you again.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, thanks,
thanks.
to STEMnet for the opportunity to do this AMA.
Sure, we are very happy, and we want to bring people like you forward to interact with students who otherwise might not get these interactions. Thank you so much.